Hey everyone, it's Chris here with Angling Oregon. I'm trying something different today, so bear with me. I've been doing a lot of research online. I found a really good recipe, or at least what looks that way, from I think a smokehouse where they smoke it for about an hour and then can the salmon after that. So that's what we're gonna do today. I have my 23 quart Presto pressure cooker that I bought, never been used. And then I also have some half-pint jars. These are the wide mouth. The recipe also called for canning and pickling salt, of course salmon, and then we have the smoker and the wood chips outside. We'll get to that when we get around that point. So I'm gonna go ahead and clear the counter off and get to cleaning up some salmon and get them ready for the canning process. All right, so this recipe calls for skinless. Well, he used skinless. I'm gonna try it. Kind of screwed that one up, didn't I? But I'm gonna go ahead and remove the skin. If you'd like to have skin on it, I'd be curious as your logic as to why, but not that that's a bad or a good thing, but just try to figure out what's best. I see on some recipes, they will take and leave the skin on and just turn that skin out. And then a lot of them, the recipes that I've seen, will take and use that skin, or remove that skin, I should say. And they'll leave that on. Now, I want you to know there are some, I found there was one of my packages that got freezer burnt. The seal didn't come on, it didn't work on it. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna try to save it. And I see a lot of the recipes as they do this, they take that salmon, like some of the salmon scrapes, you know, just the small scraps and whatnot, and they put that in the can as a filler. So I figured if I trim some of that freezer burnt stuff off of there, I'd have a nice, you know, remnants of a fillet, and I could use that to cut up in pieces and help fill those jars up. I'm just gonna do a small batch this time because I really don't know how this is gonna turn out. I've never had a good experience the first go around, it seems like, cooking stuff. So I figured I'd be on the safe side and kind of go from there. So what I have here is my skinless salmon. I'm gonna go ahead and, I don't have to do anything else to it now according to the recipe. I'm gonna go ahead, we're gonna head out to the Big Chief. We're gonna get that thing loaded. I have some alder chips that we're gonna put in there, and we're gonna smoke it for about an hour. And then it's today's temperature, it's not, this is, I guess this be the end of May. So our outside temperatures are not that bad. So I'm not looking at like actually cooking it in the smoker, but just giving it a smoke flavor. And then we'll bring it in here and we'll go through the canning process. So we'll see you at the smoker. All right, so here's the salmon. We're gonna go ahead and load this into the smoker. Got all the salmon that I just prepared in there loaded. Probably should have cut up some more, but like I said, I'm gonna do some small batches initially just to make sure I'm not screwing anything up and see if it really is as easy as they say. But I'm gonna this is alder. I'm gonna start with alder. And this is just wood chunks bought at the local Buy Mart. Grab my lid here. And once this thing starts to smoke, we're gonna let it smoke for an hour. so it doesn't get too much smoke flavor, because what I'm gathering during these recipes that I looked at is that it doesn't take much. A little goes a long ways when you're canning. So we're going to go ahead and let it sit here. We're going to let it smoke for an hour, then we'll pull it in, and the next thing you'll see me is back in the kitchen as I get everything ready to do the canning. It's been an hour, so we're going to go ahead and pull these bad boys out. I did 2 pans of wood, which typically when I smoke salmon on my Big Chief, I usually do 3, no more than 2 to 3 depending on the size of the cuts, because it doesn't take much in these little guys to get it flavored up. But we'll get this out of here and we'll take it inside and get her set for the canner. All right, see you guys inside. So everything's back inside now. I've done a little prep work in the meantime, saved you all the boring stuff. So what I did, first time use, the instructions recommend to go ahead and clean it with soapy water, so I did. I added, the directions on this called for 3 quarts of water. So I put the 3 quarts of water in there plus 2 tablespoons of vinegar just to eliminate any like water staining on the jars. I just put a little bit of the Morton's canning salt in a smaller container so it'd be easier to get to. These are little dividers that go inside there to keep the jars from resting on top of one another. Looks like I can do five jars at a time. So with that, I estimated I can do 15 jars, 3 layers. And then, so I hand washed just with warm water the 15 jars and got everything dried off. Brought the salmon in, of course. And then one thing I did, not because it needs to be disinfected so much, but because of the seals on the lids need to be softened up so they seat well. So those are some of the things I did while I was getting things prepped. So what we need to do now is figure out how we're going to put the salmon in there with a headspace of 1 inch. So I figure what I can do with the size of this cut, if I cut it in half, then I can roll it, and that gives me pretty much what I'm looking for right there. I'm going to set these aside. I'm going to hit the obvious ones first just to make sure I can get those in there. And then I'll go back through and I'll fill in any voids. So let's get this in. Oh, that's a good one right there. That one filled the whole jar up. I don't know if I need to put anything in that. Nice fat fillet on that one. Let me get here, find a spindly fillet, and I'll cut me off a chunk of that and fill that in right there. So my plan now is to go through and fill all these jars to a point where there's very little room in there for air, but I'm being important to make sure that I'm giving the head space that's needed, that 1 inch head space from the top of the lid. I'm going to do this with every single one. We got the smoke flavor. We got the salt. We grab a lid. Throw that on there. And then from what I understand, and again, I am no expert at this. What I understand, it doesn't matter. You can just go ahead and cinch these things down. When I say cinch these things down, I'm talking about the lid itself. When you put that on there, because the pressure, oh shoot, I'm getting ahead of myself. So the pressure on that will actually push the air out from the inside. And then when it cools, that's when your seal comes in. Making sure to get that on there. So I'm going to go ahead and continue this with the rest of my jars. And we'll see when it comes time to put the stuff on the oven. So I have everything. I kind of adjusted the top layer out there so they're spread out a little bit more, but I have everything in here going. The 3 quarts of water and 2 tablespoons of vinegar. I got all my jars in there. What I'm waiting for now, my gas is on high. My gas burner's on high. I'm waiting for steam to start rolling out this little nipple on here. Once that happens, then I put what's called, from what I understand, it's called the rocker. I put this on there, and that thing will sit there and chatter and blow off steam, and it'll hold 12, I believe it's 12 psi inside the pressure cooker. And because of my elevation being at 500 feet, I need to do this for 100 minutes. So we'll go ahead and get this thing up to temp, put the rocker on there, and then 100 minutes later, we turn everything off and pull the jars out. So just a quick update. So my temperature was going up, I had it on high, and it went past my 12 psi and continued to climb up to like 13. So I carefully, knowing that hot steam is going to come out of this, let a little air out and turn my temperature down, okay? So now I thought, from the way I understood it, is this thing would chatter, keeping it at an approximate PSI inside. But by turning this down to medium, releasing some of that pressure carefully so that it doesn't build up beyond what it needs to be, now I am currently at my 12 psi inside, and I am sitting right at medium. So I'm just going to monitor it from there and make sure that everything that I have temperature wise is fine. I'm staying right at that 12 psi. I marked the time, so I'm going to set my timer for 100 minutes from now, and we'll be good for the next 100 minutes. Timer has gone off. I'm going to go ahead and turn this thing off, remove the wobbler, let that thing vent out. So what I need to do is, as everything cools down, I can't open it until this little knob has gone down telling me the pressure is released. So we're going to let it drop in pressure, and then what we'll end up doing is removing all the jars. And I put down over here a nice towel counter, bunch of towels on the countertop, so that I'm not putting a nice super hot jar on a cooler top. So we're going to let this cool down, and then we'll come back and we'll remove all the jars and go from there. I'm just slowly and carefully taking them out because they are super hot, and I just want to be very careful in how I do it so I don't bang the glass to glass or do anything to rupture it. But so far so good. The ones I was worried about taking and the ones I was worried about the headspace on seem to be fine. So I probably could have put a little bit more fish in the first bottle or the first bunch. But what we'll end up doing is, I'm almost done with these. I'll get all these taken out. Ow, that's hot. Get all these taken out, set aside to cool. And then tomorrow we are going to sample some of this and see how it turned out before I do the next batch. You can hear them popping. So we're just going to let them sit and cool, and then we'll crack one of these bad boys open and we'll see what they taste like. Well, it's been a few weeks and we've been able to do a couple of extra batches of the smoked salmon. The canning salt with the alder smoke turned out great. I mean, that's a great base, and even at that as itself was awesome. But we did a couple extra batches just experimenting with different flavors. I used the chipotle Tabasco with a little bit of garlic. That was my personal favorite. And then I also did a little bit of garlic with some red pepper flake, which was just a step above, I think, the base of the alder smoke and salt. But they all turned out awesome. So if it's something that you're thinking about trying, don't be intimidated by it. It's a pretty simple process, not a lot of steps to it, a little time consuming. But if you got a day like today where it's kind of raining out and there's not much else going on and in between runs, take some of the fish you got in the freezer and can them up, see what it comes out like. Well, till next time, we hope you guys have a great day and a great weekend, and we'll see you on the water. Let's fish.